Jeff, over the 2 weeks, and, without having that off season and all that stuff that goes along with that, I know you kind of worked him into the mix, just the progress you've seen from him over the 2 weeks.
Yeah, I would say steady progress. I think it's, even for me, no OTAs. I mean, he's a rookie, and he missed a couple practices there early in camp. I mean, he's really been on the grass 7 times. So for me, myself, I got to keep the perspective to where it should be, and that without OTAs, and I know you can meet on Zoom, and we spent all that time on Zoom calls in the sprint. It's not the same. I mean, when it starts and it's live and people are running around, there's an adjustment that's got to take place. Not to mention running around with the wideouts that we have on offense. But at the end of the day, after 7 practices for him, maybe it's 8, I can't really remember. He is on a steady incline, which is all we can ask. That's all we can ask from any of our players, vets, rookies, whatever. So I like the direction as he's headed in. We're not there yet. I don't think any of us are there yet. If you've asked any players, we still got 2 weeks left here to clean it all up and get ready for that first game. So, but not disappointed on the work he's been doing and where he's going. Still got a long way to go.
Good. Jeremy, next.
Thanks for your time, Cory.
Yeah, Jeremy.
One thing I wanted to ask about was Reggie Ragland. He made a handful of plays at camp that we saw. I'm just curious what you've seen out of him in the first couple weeks of camp here, and then maybe if you could speak to the kind of person he is off the field, in meetings, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I would agree with the fact that you've seen him make some plays. We've all seen that. I think, again, veteran player, super smart, great guy, great perspective on what it takes to be a professional and play at a high level in this league. He's played a lot. But when you come into a camp for the first time, and obviously the situation is what it is, it takes time for guys to get their feet on the ground. And I'm not saying he started out slow, but just like anybody, the more we practice, the more they get used to me calling it. The more they're out there with this group of guys, it's only been better. And I think the last week and a half, I think, where he kind of like, okay, there he is, like more comfortable, speaking the same language, speaking to the same guys, all of that. Very, very impressed. I mean, it's what I think we all expected from him when we got him, and very pleased with where he's at and his role and how he's going to help us this year. So very excited.
Let's go Kyle next.
Afternoon, Cory. Thanks for your time.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I have 2 questions for you. The first is going back to Okudah real quick. You had mentioned the receivers that he's facing. That's quite the football education that he's getting in this camp, seeing guys like Marv, Danny, and even some of the reserves who are playing really well. How has that helped maybe accelerate his development and, just seeing the kind of guys?
Yeah. I would agree with that. Accelerated. That acceleration can come in 2 ways, either help you or make you realize really quick, like, okay, this is legit. These guys are, the college game, this guy played at a high level for a long time, which is obviously why we took him. You run out here on Sundays, and you guys all know, I'm not saying anything that you don't know, but it's different. And my point on that is it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not talking about the ones you listed, all the players. I just said about the group of wideouts, and that group that we have over there is pretty special from the top, and you guys can list them all the way to the bottom. So I think it's been great for him to realize, like, hey man, you can only play this game one way at this level. And that is with the utmost technique, eye discipline, focus, details on everything. Because as soon as you lose or miss one of those, it doesn't look very good. And I think he's to the point where, like, he's already been to that point. Like, okay, I get it. It's not the same. And I would go back again to the fact that he didn't have any time in OTAs. None of us did. All of the players. So that adjustment now coming back into training camp, especially for the rookies, to be like, okay, listen, we would have gotten that mindset out of him and that realization of where he is and who he's playing against at this level. We would have got that out in May and June. It's just happening now. It's happening later. So, and it's good that it's happening now. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. So it's coming fast, but again, we got a lot of work to do. He's got a lot of work to do. I think if he was on this call with us and we asked him that question, he would agree with that. So,
yeah, good stuff. My second question for you was on Oruwariye. I think with all the focus that is paid on Jeff, like some of the things that he's done, Oruwariye have gone and kind of maybe overlooked. Just curious if you've seen progress, and if you do have to go to him in week 1, how ready is he for that assignment?
Oh, he's more than ready, I would say. I mean, we're not to that point. We haven't made that decision yet. Very, very impressed with where he is at. The things that he's done this far. He looks like a seasoned veteran right now, and everything that he's doing. So I'm really pleased with where he's at. I'm not making any assumptions on what we're going to do in 2 weeks, but I'm very happy with him. And he's played very well. He's not played perfect. If you guys were out there yesterday, I mean, 2 balls down there in the red zone, great contested by him. 2 great throws by the quarterback, and then great catches by both those wideouts. But very pleased with where he's at. He's going to help us.
Thanks, Cory.
Yep.
Go 2 more, Mike, then Dave.
Oops. Hey, Cory, how are you? Want to ask one other question on Jeff. If he ends up as a starter early in the season, like you were talking about with the receivers, the first 4 weeks he could face Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Allen Robinson, and Michael Thomas. The fact that he's been able to face Kenny and Marv day after day, does that give you a little bit more comfort when you're looking at maybe 4 of the top 10 receivers in the league right off the bat?
Yeah. Not to go by Jeff, but I would say for True, for Amani, J. Cole, Darrell, Roberts, Jeff. I mean, it helps all of those guys. Obviously, the higher level of competition you have in a practice, that gets you in a situation where you're not shocked if you get in a situation in a game. So it's no different for Jeff than it is for anybody else. A straight bonus. And then add in number 9, and then you put in a completely different level of competition when he's back there pulling the trigger. So, I mean, I know I'm on the defensive side, but when I watch and have been able to observe and see how this offense runs, it's impressive. And for those guys to be able to be out there every single day in that situation, in that role, in that environment against that quarterback and that group of wideouts, it only makes you better. Whether you give up a play or you make a play, it's making you better. So that's a great situation for us to be in as a defense. So.
And I just want to go back to Tuesday. For you, what was Tuesday like emotionally and with everything that had happened with you and with the team in general?
Yeah. I mean, when these media sessions start, I'm getting used to these. Obviously, we're on Zoom right here, and I should have opened with that to start this whole session, but the session probably would have never gone past that. So, yeah, you guys, I know most of you were there. You saw it, but for me personally, to have witnessed that, I mean, probably one of the most proud, incredible learning situations I've ever been in my life. I've been able and been fortunate to be in some big games in this league. I don't know if I've ever been in a bigger moment than that. I mean, starting back in the spring with Matt and the conversations that we had, the opportunity for me to just listen, all of us listen to their stories as men, as fathers, brothers, cousins, uncles. I mean, I think Matt's said it, players have said it like so. I don't even think it's on the same planet as the game of football. I mean, we're going to relate it and we're going to bring it back to football somehow. But to sit in that meeting room on Tuesday and listen to these men talk, heard some of the stories in the spring, but when you're on a Zoom call, it's not the same when you're sitting in a room with these guys and you're looking in their eyes and you're listening to these guys pour out their hearts and their feelings. And then to watch what happened go down, like Matt has said, driven by the players leading us. It was incredible. I could stand up here probably for an hour and try to express and explain what it was like. I'll never forget it, ever. So fortunate and blessed. I think all of us for this organization, starting with Sheila, Martha, Rod, Bob, Matt, and the way that Matt has led this group of this group of men, and for this group of men to understand how Matt feels about them, all of us feel about them, for them to be able to open up and do that. Incredible opportunity. Just proud and privileged that I was here to be able to be a part of it. Never forget it.
Thanks, Cory. I appreciate it.
You got it.
The last one, Dave.
Yeah, important stuff there. Thanks for sharing that, Cory.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Back to football, two real quick.
Yeah, take me a second here. You guys got me.
All of us, I think. Just back to football real quick on cornerbacks. I don't know if you have a philosophy on this. Do you prefer to travel your top cornerbacks? Do you like to play sides? Can you just explain, how you approach that decision, I guess?
Yeah, you're not going to love the answer on this. I'm going to do whatever we think is going to help us win that game, whatever game it is. If they got to move, they move. If they don't, they don't. That would be straight game plan based. I could expand on all of those. But when we put a game plan together and I go to Matt and, hey, Matt, here's what I want to do this week. Here's what we want to do this week. Then that'll be the plan. And then we'll see if he buys it or not. And if he tells me I don't want to do that, then we won't do that. We'll do whatever we want to do. But straight, I would say, to answer the question, that will be completely based on the game plan and who we're playing.
Is it more about cornerbacks though, or receivers, or
I would say both. Yeah, it'll be both. And then you also got to look at the scheme. When you start running those guys all over the field, there can be some, not angst in that, but that's a lot more work, and you're rifling through calls, and guys are over, they're back. There's plus and minuses to both. But again, it would be the wideouts. It would be the matchups. Do we like them? Do we not? Do we feel good about just leaving them across and back and just let them stay on the left and on the right? I would say this: when you have the depth at corner that we have right now with all 5, 6, 7 of those guys, if you feel good about it, you leave them. If you don't, then you got to figure it out. So again, that'll all be based on individual matchups and opponents by the week, So and then I'd leave it at that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I appreciate that. The other thing I wanted to ask about was just mechanically. Matt said, that's one of the things that, because you don't have games, that, your guys are still working through some of those things, I guess, game day and mechanics, that is. Do you know if you'll be in the booth yet on the field? How will you handle that decision? What goes
I'll be on the field, calling the defense, obviously, and I'll be down. Yeah, I do know that.
Can you explain why? Why is it important for you to be with your guys rather than have the eyes up top, I guess?
I've got plenty of eyes up top, and just personally, there is a feel of being on the field. And then anytime for me, when you got to go through another conduit to get it out there, it's more efficient for me. And if you guys haven't got to know me, there's an element of being in front of them and looking at them when you're coaching them. And that would be my preference. And Matt completely agrees with that. So I'm going to be down there in it, on them, with them. So it'll be good.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Cory. Thanks, guys. We'll have Bevell momentarily.
Okay.
I can see who's asking the question this time, Eamon.
You can put it on speaker view if you want.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tim.
Hey, Bev. Good to see you again.
Hey, how we doing?
Good. Hey, Matthew's from the outside looking in at practice. Matthew has looked really crisp, really sharp, terrific. I'm just curious if you have the same evaluation of his camp so far, and just how much you're looking forward to seeing him back on the field. It's been a long time since November 3.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I mean, we're excited to get out there and play some games, and he has looked really good. He's just super dialed in. I really wouldn't say that's any different than even last year. I've always been impressed with him coming here. He's always been a guy that's been on top of the game, been on top of his game. been on top of our offense, from day one. So, it's not something that's surprising me, but he's definitely dialed in right now.
Nick?
Hey, Darrell, thanks for doing this. You guys, the live hitting has been sort of at a premium in the last 2 weeks. I know you guys hit some yesterday. How much do you really realistically know about your run game right now, and how much can you know about sort of where you guys are at overall with that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was good for us to get some of that live action yesterday. I mean, they're all running together. I don't know exactly what day it was, but in our scrimmage, to see guys, I think the most important thing that you worry about is the ball security. With guys not getting hit on the football and, taking some of the shots that they take. I think that's really the main focus for, some of the live hitting. I know, the guys have been hit before, but that's just, really the ball security is the issue. And so it was fairly good. We did have a ball out yesterday. And so that's something we're going to continue to work on. But I thought it was really good for us to get in those opportunities, so the receivers got hit, the running backs got hit, tight ends got hit. And I think that was good for them just to kind of get that feel for, before the first game starts.
So Justin next.
Hey, Darrell, I think we all understood what you had at the top of the depth chart with the receivers. How do you like the way the depth has developed since the end of last season with Hall, Agnew, and Cephas at that position?
Yeah, I think we've given ourselves an opportunity with some depth there. I like the way the competition is shaping up. I think there's a good nucleus of guys, particularly the guys you mentioned with Marvin Hall, with Agnew, with Vic Bolden. Those guys have with Cephas as well. I mean, those guys have really done a nice job. We've moved some of them around. We put them in different opportunities to try to give them some chances to make plays. And at different moments, guys have, shown up. But I think it's shaken out. I think we're going to be at the end. We're going to be really comfortable with the guys that we end up going with on the roster.
I don't think I've ever heard a coach complain about having too much talent. You've obviously got a lot of receiving depth. You got running backs that can make plays out of the backfield and tight ends in Hawkinson and James that are also receiving options. How do you balance finding a way to spread the ball around and keeping those guys I guess mentally engaged as the season goes on, as maybe there's some ebbs and flows there with their in-game production?
Well, I think number one, to keep all those guys happy is win. The greatest thing for us to do is to be able to win, because we're gonna win as a team. And I think every one of those guys would be excited about, the opportunities to win a whole bunch of games this year. So I think that's where it starts. And then, the rest of it is just, it's going to come and go. Just like you said, we'll have a game because of the guys that we have. We'll have a game where a guy's going to have 100 yards and, the next game, a different guy's going to have 100 yards, or, he's going to have, 8-9 catches, and then he's going to have 1 catch. So it's a good problem to have, that you have guys that you want to get the ball to. Really, it lends itself to the quarterback can really just dial in on the play, dial in on the coverage, go with the ball where it needs to go, and not have to worry about a guy that you're trying to keep happy over here. Because I think the guys, I love them. They've all bought into what we're trying to do. They all just want to win, and of course they do. They feel, and I wouldn't want them any other way, they all feel like they can help us win. So getting them the ball is the best way to do that. And we're going to do that the best way we can, moving that ball around.
Thank you.
Go Mike, then Kyle.
Hey, Darrell, how are you? I want to build a little bit more on Stafford. Is there something maybe you're seeing him do better than he was at the time he got hurt last year? And then I've got a second question for you after that.
Anything he's doing better. I just think he's super dialed in right now. Obviously he's a year better within the offense. So I think he might be even a little bit quicker on some of the decisions that he's making. We really have put an emphasis on his feet. I think starting with last year when we got here, and how your feet correspond to the plays. I think he's really done a nice job with that. And he's just a special talent in terms of throwing the football. I mean, it just looks so effortless. He can just flick it, and the ball's flying out of his hand. So he's always been impressive that way as well.
And kind of a little bit going back a little bit, when he got hurt last year, where do you feel like you characterized how he was playing at that point?
I mean, again, we're going to be measured by wins and losses, we were playing at a certain level, but as a team that, we weren't playing well enough to win the games. And, he's going to always point to that. I mean, that's a goal as the quarterback leader of the team. And then as a team is to win games. And so we weren't able to do that enough. So we all could be better.
Thanks, Darrell. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay, we'll go Kyle. Last question.
Hey, Darrell. My neighbor just started blasting Drake, so sorry if you're getting a little background noise.
Could be worse.
Yeah. Zoom life. But I have two quick questions for you. The first is, can you explain the role of the play action in your offense, just how that works? It seems like even without much of a threat, especially early in the season last year in the running game, it was still pretty effective. Why was that?
Well, I mean, obviously, the talk that we have and the thing that we believe in is being able to run the football. And that's something that we really want to do. And then I think, coupled with that, being able, once you're able to run the football, and willing to do it, then, when you put the ball in front of the running back, you're trying to distort the defense. But, the sell job is also, it's not just the quarterback and the running back, it's how the line's coming off, how the tight ends are coming off the ball, and the effort that they put into to some of the sell that you need to have in that run game, and I think we were doing a fair job with that.
And my second question was about Robert Prince. A lot of the guys love playing for him. The energy evident on the field. Just curious what it's been like working with him for you, and his role in the maturation of some of those guys.
Oh, he's an amazing coach. Juice is the first thing that comes to my mind. I mean, he brings juice every day. The football is his love. It's his passion. The guy works super hard at it. I mean, he's in here all the time. He loves the game. He studies the game. He's been at different stops from college to many different stops, obviously in the NFL. So he's been around a lot of different systems. Him and I have a really great relationship in terms of just our communication, willing to throw ideas out, bounce them off each other. So I get a lot of insight from him. I get a lot of ideas. I get a lot of good videos like, hey, how about if we look at it like this way? And, it's never confrontational, because just, the energy, the love that he has, and just trying to, 100% be the team guy and help our team get better any way we can. That's for me. But then for the players, you see a guy that's got, that much energy that he brings to practice each day. How can you not bring it? You kind of feel like you're slipping when this older guy is out energizing you. So he's a great teacher. He knows how to break the game down for those guys. He can take it to, a complex thing and make it simple. He's got great drills, and those drills will carry over to practice, and then practice reps carry over to the game. So he does a really nice job in all areas of the game for us.
Great stuff, Darrell. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Tim, last question.
Hey, Darrell, just curious, how much is missing, or the time Swift has missed over the last week or so, could that potentially affect how you guys are able to use him early in the season? You obviously want to get to a point where you're not putting too much on his plate too quick. I'm just curious how this time off maybe has affected that at all.
Yeah, Tim, that's a great question. It's not ideal. We'll say that. There's a lot on these rookies' plates right now, just in terms of, everything's new for him. Obviously, he's trying to pick up a whole new offense, and we did not have the offseason. I think that's what's so critical. And every day that we miss, I think it puts you further behind, because in terms of, not necessarily just knowing your assignment, but then it's how your assignment fits to each and every one of the looks that you can get from the defense. And it's one thing to see him on paper. It's one thing to see him on tape, but it's another thing to go out there and actually execute what you're supposed to execute, make the decisions that you're supposed to make at a quick level. And he's missing all those different reps. Yeah, you can get it on the spot, you can get it there, but then there's the reading and the information that you have to process when you get there, to be able to make the correct cut. and, make it decisively. Same thing in the pass game, running routes, you get different coverages, you get different leverage, and the routes change according to all those things. So, what type of decisions are you going to make in those quick moments? And so losing all those reps, it's just the work that you're able to get with the quarterback to be on the same page, sending a message to the quarterback with your body, with your breaks, like all that stuff is just not happening. So, where we end up starting with them, once we get him out here is going to be really important because, like you said, you can't overload him, and we got to get to a place where we're comfortable with what he's doing. But every day he misses, we're not comfortable.
All right. Thanks, Bev. Thanks, everybody. We'll have Brayden on right after this.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, good to see you.
My question is about the punter battle. There's been a lot of eyes on those two guys. What have you seen from Jack and Aaron, and have either of those guys differentiated themselves in that battle?
Yeah. Well, Kyle, you've been at practice, right? Why don't you tell me on that one? No, that's the $1 million question. Those of you that have been there have seen both of those guys performing at a high level. So I think, we're in a situation right now where it's a good problem to have to try to make a decision between two guys who are really going out and executing consistently at a high level. I've joked with both those guys. If one of you guys wants to just go out and, really crack under pressure one day and make this easy for me, that'd be great. But they haven't. They've battled. They've both, no matter what situation we've put them in, no matter how much pressure we've tried to create, whether situationally or with guys right in their face rushing, everything we've thrown at them so far, they've both handled it really well. So they're different. They bring some different things to the table. But, kind of the way that we've been evaluating them, there's probably half a dozen categories or so aside from, just gut instinct. And I would say of those categories, there's probably, 4 that are almost neck and neck. I mean, like almost shockingly similar. And then of the other 2, it's kind of split in terms of who's got the edge. So it's really neck and neck. And obviously, we're getting to a point here where we're going to have to make a decision, and they're going to make it really hard on us. So, we'll put our heads together, and when we have to, we'll decide. But, as of now, we still got another week here for one of those guys to really maybe, have the opportunity to separate themselves. But I think kind of like I said at the beginning, I take a lot of comfort in the fact that whichever way it goes, however hard the decision is, we're going to be going into week 1 with a punter that we feel really good about, that we have high expectations for as an NFL football player. So I'm encouraged by both, and I'm excited about it. And, hopefully in a week or so, you guys will find out where we're at.
Good stuff, man. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Dave, next.
How you doing, Brayden?
Great, Dave. How are you, man?
Pretty good. Can you hold that mask up again and just explain why you have it, why you're wearing that one?
Try to put it back on.
Yeah.
So I think just really appropriate, with where we've been at over the last week, and just kind of wanted to, kind of show, I guess, a sign of just solidarity with our players, with everybody here. Make sure there's really no question in terms of, which side of history I'm going to be on.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that and second that. I do have 2 football-related questions for you. One, I've seen you running down on like kicks sometimes in practice. I don't know if that's just your energy, or do you actually see something from a coaching perspective that's valuable when you're, running with your guys or trying to keep up with some of your guys, I guess?
I would say it's probably both. You can ask the guys around here in the building. I have a hard time sitting still in general, but particularly at practice, just kind of the way I've always been. I'm definitely not a up in the, skylift kind of coach. I like to get in the mix, be around the guys and kind of feel their speed, try to feel and see the same things that they're seeing and feeling. And I do think that, obviously there's different ways and different angles to coach from, but that's kind of the one that works for me. And I think it also lets them know, hey, like, let's go. This is how we practice. We're not going through the motions. There's a time and a place for walkthrough and to tempo things. But when we're out there competing, and we're out there, you know, kind of developing the play speed that we want to be about. You know, I want to encourage that and make sure that they know, hey, and definitely don't ever let me be out in front of you, right? That would be a problem. So just kind of the way I've always done things and probably the way I always will. Everybody's different, but, you know, for me to be true to myself, that's kind of how I'm always going to coach.
The other thing I just wanted to ask you was what young guys, you know, maybe first or second year guys stand out as really having a grasp of, you know, what you're trying to teach.
Sure. We got a really good group here. You guys have seen it, just the depth of our roster and the guys that are going to be key contributors for me. There's really a lot of good players. You know, I hesitate to single anybody out, but I would say, you know, CJ Moore is a guy who's had an outstanding camp. And I would say, first off, you talk about just a great kid, hard worker, you know, has worked for everything. Yes, sir. You know, he drives me crazy calling me sir. I don't really like that, but that's a habit for him that he's not going to break. But when you talk about a guy who just does everything exactly the way we've asked, you know, and to be perfectly frank, is a guy probably that I underestimated coming in as a new coach. And probably I was just wrong on just going off of the tape and my perception of him coming in, but has really just kind of took the bull by the horns. You know, guy had, you know, multiple tackles as a gunner last year, was a starting gunner. And I'm sure you guys have seen kind of, I came in and asked him to move to PP and not only the PP, but moved him to be the backup PP. And he, never complained, never tried to convince me that he was best where he was. Just really embraced it, dove in head first, wore me and Mule out all off season, just learning the protection aspect of playing that position, and did a great job, has really earned everything that he's getting right now in terms of playing time and opportunities. So that would be a guy that I am very, very excited for, and really proud of, I would say, just the way he handled everything. The way he approaches everything on a daily basis. You know, we have a team of 53 guys like that. We'll be in great shape. So there's a lot of other guys, you know, I could rattle off, but a guy who's really stood out in camp as one of our best players would be CJ.
All right, we'll go two more, Ben, then Mike.
Hey, appreciate the time as always. Just kind of wondering, without the preseason this year, how you're weighing like past experiences to what you're seeing out there in Allen Park, you know, when it comes to the punter battle, long snapper, and even filling out a kickoff team without those live action reps. Just wondering how you're weighing past experience and tape versus what you're seeing in front of you these past couple of weeks.
Yep. Thanks, Mike. That's a great question. That's been the biggest challenge, certainly for me. And I would say for most coaches, or at least most special teams coaches, is, you know, kind of what we've always believed in is, you know, you earn your opportunities in the preseason games by what you do in practice, but you earn your spot on the team and your playing time in the regular season based on what you show in those preseason games. So we're kind of just being forced to skip a step there, and that's definitely challenging. I mean, it really, really is. I think it's really, really unfortunate, you know, for some guys that aren't getting those opportunities to go show, because we've all seen it every preseason on every team. There's somebody that you don't have any expectations for, and they get out there when it's live and it's full speed, and they just pop. And there's probably that guy on our team, and unfortunately, we're not going to get the chance to see that. That really just kind of sucks. But we got to try to do what we can. You know, what's best for the Detroit Lions moving forward, to make sure that we got the best 53 guys when we get to week 1. And we got the best 11 guys in the right spots, you know, every play and every phase of the game. So we're trying to create competitive situations in practice. We tell the guys every day that everything you're doing is being evaluated. We've had much, much more intense, I guess whatever you would want to typically call the show team. We don't have show teams. You know, we have a punt team versus a punt return team. And those guys on the punt return team are putting their best foot forward, just like anybody else. So whether it's punter, snapper, you know, gunner, returner, it really doesn't matter the position, but we're just trying to create a competitive environment and see who really separates himself and gives us the most confidence moving forward. I guess I probably dodged your question a little bit in terms of looking at past games. That always carries a lot of weight too. Guys who have been there, done that, you can't forget that. But I just think typically guys that have been there, done that, they show up in practice too. So different for sure, but what it always comes down to, and you know, kind of what I told you guys way back in Mobile or again 2 weeks ago is, you know, the foundation of our program here is toughness and competitiveness. So from that standpoint, sometimes it's easier to be tough and competitive on game days. So we're just trying to evaluate who can do that on a daily basis, who's really got that in their DNA, and feel really good about a lot of guys here in that regard.
Thank you.
All right, Ross, last question.
Yeah, I've got two for you, Brayden. First, how do you, and this is because partially I have no concept of it, how do you assess a long snapper battle?
Right. So there's really, you know, three parts of the snapping position, just in terms of the actual football play. You got to snap, right? That's always going to be first and foremost. That's obviously the most important part of the position, right? You got to throw a dart, and it's got to be in the right spot. We don't get the snap, it's kind of a non-starter. Then you got the protection, you know, somewhat on field goal, but especially on punt, critical. They got the hardest job of anybody in the protection, because while everybody else has got their head up, you know, looking at the man that they're getting ready to block, the snapper, he's looking between his legs, you know, throwing a snap, and things can change while he's got his head down. So it's a very, very difficult part of the job. And obviously the consequences of him not executing that job are catastrophic. So that's kind of the second aspect of it, and probably the second, you know, where you place the highest priority. And then the third part is in coverage. You know, you look around the league, there's a wide range of what guys can give you in coverage. Anything, you know, the way that we coach it and the way that we coach our punt team is those guys' responsibilities is to snap and to protect. And then we ought to have 10 other guys or 9 other guys really downfield making the plays, and anything we get there is a bonus. But those are really the three things that you're evaluating. And then just like any other position, there's you know, what comes into play in the meeting rooms, in the locker rooms, in terms of just understanding the little nuances of the game, everything that they're being counted on throughout the week. So those are really kind of the 4 things that we're evaluating, and it all starts with throwing the perfect snap, but there's a lot more to it than just that.
And when you look at punter and long snapper specifically, since you have 2 of those guys there, with an expanded practice squad and obvious questions about COVID, would you potentially fight to keep a punter or a snapper on the practice squad because of those, you know, variances?
Yeah, I think, you know, special teams coaches fighting to keep certain guys on the roster is a tale as old as time. We kind of always seem like we have a chip on our shoulder in that regards, trying to get the guys that are going to help us, as opposed to maybe a, you know, third or fourth quarterback, things like that. But those are ultimately going to be Matt and Bob's decisions. You know, I appreciate the time they give me to give my opinion and share what I think is best for our team. So, you know, if you're asking me, yeah, sure, I'd like to have a backup at all 3 spots, right, just in case something happens. But, you know, I think you try to find guys who can do a combination of things. We're definitely fortunate to have the extra spots, and those are discussions that we'll have and you know, talk through and what we need to do to make sure that we're covered. But ultimately, those are questions you'd have to ask Matt and Bob.
Thanks, Brayden. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Thanks, Brayden. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Amen. If I can just comment real quick just on the other situation, you know, I just wanted to say again, Dave asked about it real quickly, but just how proud I am to be a part of this team and a part of this organization, and just how grateful I am for the leadership here. That's really not only giving the players the opportunity to talk and listen, but has really empowered them and given them a platform and aligned themselves with them from Matt and Bob, really all the way up to the ownership, Mrs. Ford. It's been awesome. And I've just been very, very grateful to be around the men in this locker room, really proud of their perspective and their thoughts on everything and the courage they've had to share. You know, we've had eye-opening conversations and really hard things to talk about, you know, uncomfortable things to talk about. And for us, really just trying to listen. But I'm so proud of these guys. And I wish that I genuinely wish that everybody had that opportunity. You know, I was born to a football coach, grew up on a football field. My dad went to coach at a high school in Cincinnati called Cory High School when I was 5 years old. So I was blessed enough to grow up around Black people and not only to be around them, but, you know, those guys were my heroes as a kid. So I never really had some of those thoughts, or prejudices. But as you grow up, you realize not everybody has those experiences. And as you start to have these conversations that we've had, it goes even further to realize that, just because I was around that doesn't mean that I understood. So, I think where I'm at right now is just trying to continue to gain further understanding, trying to listen, and mainly trying to let our guys know how much I support them, because I think if everybody could have the opportunity to be in a football locker room, and particularly this one, to have conversations with Deron Harmon, Christian Jones, Trey Flowers, Will Harris, guys like that, they're really so smart. And I'm so glad that they're not sticking to sports and shutting up and dribbling, because they have so much to share. And I just really hope that people will continue to listen. I would encourage you guys and all of you to just continue to use your platform to spread their message, because it's important. Change is coming, and I'm very, very proud to be a part of it, and to get to witness it up close firsthand. Just feel very, very grateful for all that. So wanted to make sure that, as that's obviously a huge topic right now, politics aside, that, what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong, and didn't want to miss the opportunity to let everybody know where I stand on that.
Thank you,
Thanks, everybody.
Well said. Thank you, Brayden.
Thanks.